Reiger Park is a Gauteng colored township situated in Boksburg in the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality. It was established as Stirtonville after the Second World War when people moved from rural areas seeking work on the gold mines. In 1963, under the apartheid government's policy of separate development, black people were moved from there to Vosloorus. Indians were moved to Actonville, and those classified as colored were left in Stirtonville, which was renamed Reiger Park. Well, to keep the history of Reiger Park alive, authors Cecil and Marilyn Morden have penned and edited a book, Reiger Park, Home to Many a Tuiste. Cecil Morden is joining us now to unpack the contents of this edition, which is published in English and Afrikaans. Cecil, good afternoon. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. Why this book? Why did you decide to go this route to tell us and write for us about the history and the role of Reiger Park in our country?
Dan, thank you for this opportunity to share with you some ideas that we used for the book. I think you sketch a little bit about the history of Reiger Park, and it evolves around people being moved from areas like Benoni and Germiston to the area that you call Stirtonville. And if you try to find information about it, there's very little. And in some cases, the place is just a footnote in the official history. And that triggered us to start doing some research and ask people to write their own stories. And that is really the result that we have here. A book that captures the history of the people of Reiger Park and people that come from various parts of the East Rand and a far field as Herschel to call Reiger Park their home.
I mean, it's well written. I mean, I haven't had time to read it, having just laid my hands on it yesterday. And thank you very much, by the way, for couriering it to our studios. I mean, but you've gone and you found, I think it's about 30, if I'm not correct, contributors, people who are playing different roles today, who went on from Reiger Park and they surround to play different roles, and their narratives about what happened then, and it's both in English and Afrikaans. I mean, the richness of it is really comprehensive and beautiful.
Yes, I was very fortunate. You know, I've reached out to many people to write their own stories. The first part of the book is a bit of the historical context that we researched and captures sort of factual information. And then a really good part of the book is the individual stories. Some of that were two people that have already passed away, and I was fortunate to lay hands on manuscripts they left behind, and their families were so kind to give it to us. And then I've just at random contacted people I knew, friends that refer me to other people. Some didn't want to write, and others did. And the end result is that we've got over 30 stories that really tells a magnificent story.
Yeah, I mean, every part of South Africa during the dark old days of apartheid contributed to the struggle for freedom and democracy. And of course, there was that Boksburg boycott that you feature, reminding us about that in the 80s. But I mean, as a soccer lover, I did not know that Reiger Park produced the first black player for Leeds United many years before Lucas Radebe had joined Leeds.
Yeah, and that's just the sad part of the recording of the South African history. Very few people know about Albert Johannesson, one of the very first from the continent that went and played in one of the finals in the FA Cup in the UK. He was a remarkable player. And there's a couple of books written about him, but very few South Africans actually knows about him. And I hope that this book will trigger an effort to really give recognition to a icon like Albert Johannes.
I must say, I'm ashamed that I did not know about him until I got hold of your book. You are so right. We tend to know pockets of our history, but it's such a rich history and broad that we need to know a little bit, we need to broaden our scope. What will you hope readers, Cecil, will get out of this book?
I think I hope that people will understand the complexity of a community like Reiger Park that had to merge people that came from different parts of the country and merge into one community. And the depth of the skills that was generated out of there, despite what you hear always about drugs and gangsterism, people tend to forget the good that came out of the area. I mean, Reiger Park delivered one of the Supreme Court judges, Justice Nofsa, who retired recently, and he played a leading role in the consumer boycott in the late 80s. And there are many others that have a very rich contribution that they made to the society, and we should not forget about that.
Yeah. Is it not a tragedy, though, that many of our townships, like Reiger Park, like Soweto, like KwaMashu, Umlazi, Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, and Zwide, and all of them produced during the days of the struggle, I mean, freedom fighters, and today they are all beset with all kinds of problems, as you said, including drugs. You said the book is in two parts. The first part is about the history, and then the other part is about the voices, the narratives themselves of the people. What is the last part about? Can you just share briefly with our viewers, without giving too much, because we'd like people to go and purchase your book?
I think the stories of the various people, and then I was fortunate, one of my friends, Dr. Andrews, wrote his memoirs. And the third part of the book sort of captures his story, which is slightly longer than the others. But I thought it was a very nice story that captures both his history and also the history of Reiger Park, the role of various community organizations in Reiger Park that made a significant contribution towards the upliftment of the community. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cecil Morden, for joining us this afternoon today, to sharing with us a little bit more about the book, Reiger Park, Home to Many at Tuiste. This book was launched last weekend in Reiger Park, and you get yourself a bit of history. There's a lot of detail here, some of the stuff that we forget about, where we have come from as a country and the roles played by different communities across the length and breadth of the Republic in contributing to the struggle for freedom, democracy, and social justice.